Welcome to the August BeeCraft podcast. Just produced the magazine. It's gone to press. We're doing this a little bit early for reasons that will become apparent as the podcast proceeds. Let's see what especially attracted our attention in this month's magazine. Lucy, what did you think?
Oh, well, I think my favourite article this month was probably Dr. Catherine Macree's and Dr. Martin Jerfer's article on insect consciousness or honeybee consciousness. Readers might be aware of the kind of debates around honeybee consciousness and sentience. They might have even read Lars Chitka's brilliant book, The Mind of a Bee. But even if you haven't, I think this article is a really great starting point into those sorts of debates. I had the privilege of attending one of Catherine's lectures quite recently. She's just finished her PhD at the Sorbonne University. And this article is essentially one of her PhD chapters. It's about honeybee learning and conditioning and what that tells us about honeybee sentience. And it's really interesting because we're aware of our ecological responsibility for bees as beekeepers. But this article brings to light lots of questions around potential moral responsibilities because they are potentially sentient beings. So I really enjoyed reading it this month, and I'm hopeful that she'll release, or they'll together contribute another article on another of her chapters, which was around honeybee fear, because there's really interesting research going on at the moment, really cutting edge stuff about what we know about honeybee fear and how that plays into the sentience debates as well.
Is that different from beekeepers' fear?
Well, Richard's experienced that a lot in his extracting room recently.
Well, yeah, I have been extracting over the last few days, and I've had quite enough of being very sticky and getting into trouble for sticky floors and door handles and every other part of the house to add to the builder's plaster dust. Yeah, it was so interesting, and it really makes you, when you're actually out beekeeping, having read the article, it really does make you think about how your bees are reacting to your presence there. Do they notice you, and the way that you're interacting with your bees? And I certainly took a lot more care when taking the supers on and off and so on, thinking about what I'd learned from this article about how the degree to which bees consciously perceive the world about them, and the evidence that there is for the fact that they feel pain. And one of the aspects of pain that the article talks about is the evidence of thermal pain being felt by bumblebees, the fact that bumblebees can actually feel pain when heat is applied, which I thought fed in quite nicely to that story in the news this week about the fact that many of the common species of bumblebee have declined in the UK because of the current heat wave. It's just too hot for them to survive with those woolly coats that they have on.
Yeah, it was a good follow-up to the article we did with Lars Chitka a few years ago when we visited his lab, and I'm very pleased to say Lars has invited us along again this autumn to see what his students are up to now. They're all investigating the sentience of bees, and I think we should put a call out to readers to ask them what they do, what special things they do to look after the bees, to make sure that it's a good process they're using. Apart from the usual good practice beekeeping, is there anything special they're doing now that they're more aware that bees are sentient beings? Richard, there was a lovely article that you enjoyed putting together because of the photographs.
Well, yes, as you say, I like my photography, and in the magazine we try to have the best images we can, and we usually have something with stunning images on the centerfold. So as you open the magazine, you usually get a real eye full of lovely pictures. And this month there's an article by John Brackenbury, who's a professor at Cambridge University, produced a lovely book called Insect Flight, and he looks at the flight mechanisms and strategies of various insects as they fly. He starts off looking at actually the mating process of the hairy-footed flower bee, but then goes on to look at ladybirds, lacewings, butterflies, grasshoppers, and so on, looking at how they fly and why they fly and the different methods that they use flight for. And it's accompanied by these amazing images. He's a crack photographer. He's got all sorts of international awards and members of various professional associations, and he takes photographs of insects as they're in flight or as they're taking off, and then stitches them together so that you'll have a shot, for example, of a grasshopper taking off from a flower, and you see the grasshopper flying through the air and the various motions that it goes through and the actions of its wings and so on. So that's really interesting. It's a lovely article to look at, fascinating to read, but I think it's the first time we've done this that it's accompanied by some videos as well. There's a link in the article, and if you read the digital edition, you'll just be able to click through to that, and each example that he's given is accompanied by a fascinating video which illustrates the aspect of flight that he's talking about in the article.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the bit about grasshoppers and the fact that unless they mobilize their wings, they can't help but somersault and do a complete backwards flip or forwards flip.
There's a brilliant picture, isn't there?
Yeah,
no, well, I've never really paid a great deal of attention to how my own bees fly. You see them coming and going and taking off, and you might notice that they're flying in a slightly different pattern if they're coming in laden with nectar and so on. But it's another aspect, having spoken about sentience and consciousness, is also the way they fly. And the videos that John's taken are in extreme slow motion, so you can see every flap and twist and turn of a wing or the way the bodies move. And that example with the grasshopper is brilliant, isn't it? You can see this grasshopper taking off and the way its body changes as it flies through the air in order to be able to land on its feet, to make sure, like a cat falling from a tall building, the things it has to do to ensure that it ends the right way up.
It reminded me of a little incident I had last winter when I did one of these backflips on the ice, and clearly I wasn't able to do it properly because I didn't have wings, so I just banged my head on the way down.
Exactly, you should have mobilised your wings. Would have saved you a lot of trouble.
I'm just back from Belfast from the International Meeting of Young Beekeepers, so I put in an article about that. As usual, it's fantastic. I've been going since 2017 when it came to Marlborough in England, and it's just such an amazing event. You have these 70, 80 young beekeepers aged 12 to 18 competing in a competition, but more importantly, communicating with each other. Language barriers just go out the window. It is absolutely magnificent to see, and it's a real joy to be present at it. So there were several days in Belfast. It was just terrific watching the kids from the first day they meet, when they're all a bit hesitant and reticent about meeting and talking to each other. And then suddenly by the end, it's all hugs and tears saying goodbye. Many of whom form friendships for life, I think. You can just see the WhatsApps flying, and they tell us that there's all sorts of communication going on after the event. The winner was an Austrian, and indeed the Austrian team were successful again this year, but lots of others were coming up. The British beekeepers from Scotland, England and Northern Ireland, they all did really well as well. Just shows you what this is doing, how beekeeping is coming on in various countries. It used to be a real stronghold of the East Europeans, but now beekeeping expertise is just increasing in so many countries. Absolutely great fun. We had one hilarious incident when I went out to look for a drone congregation area with some of the facilitators. The facilitators at IMYB, incidentally, are usually late teens, early 20s, and they are a powerhouse behind the organization. They organize the teams. They look after the youngsters in the competition elements. They're a terrific group of people. And as I say, they've come through previous IMYBs and are very experienced, very knowledgeable. Anyway, I went with some of them, and one in particular who knew about DCAs, to find a DCA in what's called the Giant's Ring in Belfast, a very mysterious place. It's got a dolmen in the middle, a passage grave. We had the most amazing incident there that we could not understand. We had bees flying almost in slow motion all around us. None of them attracted to the lure that we had, the queen lure. And we couldn't understand what was going on until it dawned on us. And we were rather embarrassed when we finally realized what was actually going on, but we had a really good laugh about it. Anyway, I've written about that as a side piece in the IMYB article, and that will stay with me for a very long time. Richard, we've had some sad news this month, haven't we?
That's right. The death was announced of Patricia Greene, who you may be more familiar with as Jill Archer from The Archers. And in 2019, I had the great pleasure of interviewing her. It occurred to me that she was probably the nation's best known beekeeper, been keeping bees, I think, in the radio show The Archers for about 50 years. And I went along to her house and had lunch and got along very well with her and asked her about what she knew about bees and beekeeping that she'd basically learned from the scripts, and asked if she'd ever actually seen in a hive of bees, to which she said no, but she would love to. So I managed to find a local beekeeper. This was a few weeks later, and we took her along. And you came, Stephen, didn't you? And we introduced her to some bees, a hive of bees. She absolutely loved it. She loved using the smoker. She'd not been allowed to do that before, because in the studio they do use a smoker for sound effects, but that's done by a sound effects technician. So she enjoyed puffing away on the smoker. And she said she learnt lots about beekeeping, which she was going to take back and introduce to her beekeeping in the Archers.
And we have a recording of that. I asked Paddy O'Connell if he could dig out the recording for us of that event, because he put it on Broadcasting House, Radio 4, Sunday mornings, and he very kindly did so. So here's what actually happened.
Now, the most famous matriarch on the radio meets a real-life queen bee. For its centenary, BeeCraft magazine invited Patricia Greene, who plays Jill Archer, to visit a colony of bees in Berkshire. It's a beehive, or BH, exclusive.
I've had colony collapse in one of my hives.
Oh, no.
When I opened up that hive yesterday, most of the colony was dead.
And there's nothing you can do about it?
Not without a queen. I've transferred the few surviving workers over to another hive.
Well, there's a lot for you to manage.
Our guides are Richard Rickett and Stephen Fleming, deputy editors of BeeCraft magazine.
BeeCraft as a magazine was started in 1919 by the Kent Beekeepers Association, and as a magazine it was quickly taken up by other beekeeping associations around the country until it became the national magazine. So this year, being the centenary, we've been running a number of special articles and interesting pieces, and I thought it would be rather fun to talk to probably the UK's most famous beekeeper, Jill Archer. So I wrote to Patricia, and she got back to me and said, yes, I'd love to talk to you about bees. And during our conversation, it came about that she's not actually ever looked in a beehive. The moment I mentioned it, she was up for it.
I'm going to walk through these wild buttercups, past these windfall apples on this very warm day to find... Hello, Paddy, I'm back again.
So, hello. Isn't this pasture land wonderful, though? It's reclamation, and it's usually covered with wild flowers. It's fantastic. And we've just seen some beautiful little blue butterflies, a little cluster of them, haven't we?
Yes,
it's just fabulous.
Your character in The Archers is very bee-friendly. And what about you yourself?
Well, I was just saying, I haven't been near a beehive since I was a child.
Standing in the orchard is the Queen of the Radio, preparing to learn about the royalty of the beehive.
The queen in the hive, it makes a little dance and it says to the other baby queens who are there, "Are you there?" And the little bees make a noise like dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, saying yes. So she then knows where they are and she goes and kills them. How about that for melodrama?
I mean, it's very moving in a way, because you are the matriarch on the radio.
Yes.
And you're about to meet the matriarch with a sting.
That's right. I might learn a thing or two. I need to. We had a character in the Archers who was a country woman. She always used to say, when anything happened in the storyline, "I'm going to go and tell the bees."
There's a crisis for bees, isn't there? Both the habitat being threatened and the virus that we've covered on BH before. So we're all worried about bees, and what Patricia's here doing is lending her personality to the story of the bee.
That's right. Bees have been under pressure for some time because of the varroa mite which came in. And then, of course, there are pesticides, and habitats are disappearing. Beekeepers are looking after the honeybees, but solitary bees aren't doing as well. They're disappearing significantly, and climate change is having an effect as well.
The lid of the hive is removed by Marlow beekeeper Liz Lorente.
So the smoke just makes them calm. This is where we're going to sort of pull the frames out, and we don't want to squash them. So we want to get rid of them on these little, what they call lugs.
Yeah. Oh. I bring greetings from Ambridge.
Greetings from the famous bees.
Yes. And do the bees come out of eggs then?
Yes, eggs, then larvae, and then they'll hatch out.
Look at that. That is
there
just
are
alive with bees.
Yes.
Well,
the queen might be there then, might she?
There she is. There, with her white.
Yes.
And can you see she's got a long bottom?
Yes.
And because she has this long train, she's going on the other side, she sachets when she walks. Can you see how she walks?
And that's
very
the
differently?
noise. That's the noise she makes.
Yeah. No, it's the sort of movement when she
Yes.
walks. She's
Sexy walk.
yes.
I'm
the
just
bees.
fascinated by the whole thing.
Yes. Couldn't you just sit here for hours?
I could.
And just watch.
I could.
It is. I'm the same.
What about that wasp? Have they done
I think
for
it's
it?
gone.
Good.
Because it doesn't seem to be around anymore.
No.
So hopefully it's gone.
This is the most exciting thing I've done in years.
Oh!
It's just so fascinating.
We're on hand to witness the moment that it all begins.
So this is going to be the birth of a bee. Isn't that exciting? It's not very much smaller than the others, is it? Look at that. Hello, bee. Your name is Baby Bee. Isn't that exciting? That's really very lovely. To see a bee born. Fancy. It's just a new world, isn't it? I feel very privileged. Thank you very much indeed for this. He's just pointed out to me some bees at the bottom of the hive sticking their bums in the air, and that's because we've disturbed them and they're emitting geranol, a hormone or something, is it? And it's telling the bees who were away when we were disturbing them, look, this is the way home. Come to me. This is the smell you want.
How have you been affected by this close-up encounter?
It has changed my life. Honestly, I'm so fascinated by bees now. Really, really, truly fascinated. I'm sorry that I'm 88. I can't do much about it. But I'm really, really into bees. And to think that they really give us our food.
I mean, you are doing a lot because you are lending your support to the centenary of this magazine. You're bringing attention to the bee. So you're doing what you can, and that's perhaps all anyone can do, Paddy.
To think if I can give them a centimetre of help, I'd be delighted. Yes, absolutely.
The bee's been a mystery to you, but not to Jill.
No, Jill's known all about it for ages. Well, she hasn't. But little bits that the writer lets me say. But if I'd known this several years ago, it would have been very thrilling.
You'd have put more bee in the archers.
I'd have been a better actor, therefore, yes, with the bee stories.
Paddy Greene, thank you very much.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
That was the much-loved and recently departed Patricia Greene of Archers fame. We had a wonderful day with her, with Paddy O'Connell and BBC Broadcasting House, and we're very grateful to them for allowing us to use the clip. You'll notice that Patricia mentioned CCD, but she didn't actually mention Varroa. Perhaps that fictional place of Ambridge, it was Varroa-free.
Well, I wish we could say the same. I wish we all lived there. No, well, luckily readers don't need to live in a fictional Varroa-free place because Simon Tuck's article in our beginner series this month covered it beautifully. He's doing a wonderful job, I think, with our beginner series. We've had some amazing feedback from readers this year, but I particularly enjoyed his August article on Varroa. There's some great refreshers and reminders for more experienced beekeepers. He throws in some great personal recommendations and practical tips, as well as giving a kind of broader overview of why August is a really significant month for establishing a proper Varroa treatment plan, or why August is really important for monitoring and things like that. But for me, the blend of personal tips and tidbits and views made it the perfect practical article. I really enjoyed reading that this month.
Yeah, it was good. And we've been lining up in the background the speakers for the National Honey Show in October. And I think this year we've got an especially good lineup. We have Brendan Werries from the United States, who's looking at bees at war, beekeeping in Britain during the wartime years. And he has come up with some really fascinating research. I've seen a draft of his thesis and I'm really very impressed. The documentation he has gone through at Kew and at various county associations digging up this history is really quite amazing and quite an eye-opener in a much neglected field. Richard, you pointed them out to me at the BBK Spring Convention.
Yeah, I got chatting to him at the at one of the evening dinners, and And then I called you over, and we practically cornered him, didn't we? Because we were so fascinated to discover that this young American was doing such in-depth research into wartime British beekeeping, and some of the things he's found out, and quite a lot of myth busting as well. So I think it's going to that's going to be fascinating. Do come along, because I think you'll find out that a lot of the things you thought you knew about wartime British beekeeping are not necessarily true.
Indeed. We also have Kate Graydon. Kate has written for us in the magazine before. She did the story on the variation in queen egg sizes, and she'll be coming back with an overview of the sorts of work that is going on at Bristol. Some fascinating observations about bee behaviour. She's great to speak to, and listeners may remember her from a podcast she did with us from Brazil when she was looking at solitary bees. So I think that's going to be a really entertaining talk from her. And Lucy, you've come up with someone.
Yeah, so again, readers might remember Rachel Bower. She's an award-winning poet and author from Bradford, and I interviewed her, wrote about her last year because she wrote my favourite poetry collection last year called Bee. She's a beekeeper as well as doing all of this incredible writing and teaching. And so her lecture this year at the show is a bit more of kind of an interdisciplinary one, part poetry reading, part traditional lecture, talking a lot from her experiences beekeeping and writing about beekeeping. And bees have featured in stories for a very long time, so she's part of this incredible legacy. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her at the show as well.
And we also have Ollie Weisig, who's been looking at wild living colonies in the southwest of England, and we have persuaded him to go to the Isles of Scilly. In fact, I'm off with him in a few days' time. We've recorded this podcast a little bit earlier than usual, but we'll add on an as live report from Scilly with Gilly and Ollie. Gilly being Gilly Halliday, who does the organisation of these trips to Scilly. It's my 6th visit to Scilly over the past 6 years, and this year we're looking to find some wild colonies, which is what Ollie will be speaking about at the Honey Show. And we'll do some as live reporting of beelining. So that should be a lot of fun, because these wild living colonies, largely undocumented, and have been affecting the research in ways that we haven't quite understood yet. So I will leave you pair to luxuriate in the fantastic summer that's happening on the mainland, and I will go out to chilly Scilly, where the wind always blows and the temperature doesn't go much above 20 degrees ever. So do have sympathy with me, please.
We definitely sympathise your island paradise exploration. It's very difficult out there, harsh conditions.
Shocking. And I have to go on that flat bottom boat, so pray for flat calm seas.
I'm only disappointed that if you fall in the sea this year, I won't be there to photograph it.
Oh yes. Oh. I'm sure you'll find a way of doing something this year. Anyway, we will see you later, and just up and coming soon will be the little episode from Scilly. So goodbye for now.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Well, hello, Gilly. We've just arrived on the Isles of Scilly. Ollie Weisig and myself come to do some bee work on the islands, and we're standing in your glorious apiary, which is quite an improvement on what we saw a few years ago.
Yeah, I've learnt loads. It's coming on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very nice indeed. We're right by the quayside, up a little bit, and noticing the birds are fluttering in and out of the ferns all around the hives. It really is an idyllic sort of situation. So what are we going to do on this trip?
Oh, so much to do, isn't there? Ollie, obviously you're here. Thank you for coming over with your amazing research for Plymouth. And so we'll get, hopefully, if we can, if you're able to, we're looking for free living colonies, trees, air bricks, you name it, chimney pots usually. We're looking for that. And for us on the islands, all the beekeepers, we're very excited to keep our beehives down so we don't tip the balance for all the other pollinators. And we're very conscious of that. But we really don't know how many hives we should have per island. So every time you if you're able to give us a number of what you're finding free living in trees, that probably elms, I don't know, you're the expert, but that's what we're looking for, an equation to stab at something as we go through landscape recovery with the Duchy and the Wildlife Trust and Tresco Estates.
Yeah. And first glance, this year is really different because everywhere here is so brown. You haven't had much rain here either. And I think the bees are well ahead of the season, so to speak, in that I think they're beginning to close down for winter almost. And here we are only at the end of July. So I hope we can find some drones in the air on the DCAs. We'll go out to Sampson again and see if we can attract any drones out there. But Ollie, here you're going to do 2 specific jobs here.
Yeah, so we're hoping to find some honeybee foragers out foraging on various flower patches, just somewhere where we can start a process called beelining, which is essentially getting bees on an artificial food source and then following them back to their hive. And this is, one of the ways you can find the free living honeybee colonies. And it's a great place to try it because there's already good information on the location of existing colonies. So we're really interested in the hidden hives, the ones that aren't known. And yeah, beelining is just one of the ways you can find them.
That's great. And we have, from previous visits, we do know that there must be some wild living colonies around, but we really don't know that much about them. We're getting some reports in from individuals. But with that, combined with your observation skills and your beelining, let's see how many we get.
Oh. And the community are really excited about this. So they're feeding in. Ollie's given us posters that we've had for a few weeks up, and people are ringing in and telling us where they're free living colonies, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to follow them up.
And the weather is just fantastic, because I think the mainland's baking in a heat wave, and we're here in a glorious 21 degrees with a nice cool breeze. It still feels pretty warm, absolutely glorious. So we'll report back in the next podcast about what we've actually found.
Should we run in the sea now?
Yeah, let's do that.